Let's talk about organizing your stuff. And by stuff, we mean the files and folders on your computer. If you're new to Whitfield or if you've done this before, chances are you don't have that much to organize. So you can just sit back and watch. But if you've been at Whitfield for a while and you haven't organized your folders, then you've probably got a ton of stuff all over the place, and we have a little bit of work to do to get you organized. The first thing I'll say is that everybody organizes things a little bit differently. What works for me might not work for you, and what works for you might not work for me. So the suggestions I'm going to make to you now are just that. They're suggestions or guidelines based on what we've seen at Whitfield over the last few years. As long as you have some way of organizing your stuff and you do it in a consistent way, meaning you're saving stuff that way all the time, then you're moving in the right direction. Let's talk about how you save stuff by talking about how you open stuff. Think about how you open something that you want to work on. A lot of us will open the app that we're working in order to find the file. And then we'll use the recent items pane on the left-hand side, that list, to find the item that we're looking for. Yours might look a little bit different than mine, but it should be about the same. It's totally fine to use the recent items pane in any app as long as you know where that file lives on your computer and that you can get to that file without going through the app like Word. So you don't need this list to find that file. If the recent items tab is the only way you know to find the files that you're looking for and you freak out if you don't see it on the list, then that may cause you a lot of problems. So we want to think about how we're organizing those files. Let's talk about three things: save versus save as, working with downloaded stuff, and working with stuff in OneNote. So I'm going to open a fake document here. Let's say this was a blank document. I'm typing maybe a history paper or something, and I've worked on it for half hour, and I'm ready to be done with it for the night. The best thing you can do is just click save, and there are a few ways to do that. You've got an icon for a floppy disk, if you know what a floppy disk looks like. We don't really use them that much anymore. In the upper left-hand corner of most Office products. In most apps, you can also hit Control-Save to save that document. You can also hit the File menu, which a lot of you will do. And then you've got two options there, Save and Save As. You want to be using Save most of the time. If you find yourself using Save As a lot, then that might put you in some weird situations. Because Save As means that you want to save another copy of the document you're working on. So think about Save As something you use once in a while if you need a second copy, but Save is the thing that you want to use most often. When I click Save, it lets me pick a place on my computer. Again, yours might look a little bit different than mine. I'm going to call this Fate Paper 3, and I'll click Save. And then when I come back to get that document, I know that it's on my desktop. Here it is. And I know that I can probably also get to it through Word on the recent items folder. If you want to work with downloaded stuff, I'll open up my downloads folder. A lot of you will get attachments in email and download that to your computer. A lot of you will go onto a teacher's portal page, download something from there. Our suggestion is to not work with that file from the downloads folder. Take that file, let's say I want to take this file, and I want to work on that. We'll pretend it's a Word document. Take that file and move it somewhere else on your computer, probably into a folder that's organized. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Right now I'm going to use my desktop. I'll drag it up here, and then I can double click on it from there and work on it. We also want to talk about working with stuff in OneNote. If you're in a class notebook and a teacher's put something in the content library that has a file attachment like a Word document, you know that you need to pull that page out of the content library into your notebook to work on it. If you double click on something like a Word document, it'll open up just like it's a file that's on your computer. Type into it, do your work. All you have to do is click Save. It saves right back into your OneNote notebook. So those are a few quick tips for saving things. Let's talk in a little more detail about how to organize those files and folders once you save them. Let's take a look at one example of how someone might organize files as a student. On our computers, most of the time, a lot of the stuff you work with is going to be in your Documents folder. So I'll open that up. And then a lot of times, people will create folders for each class they're in. Advisory Band, Espanol, History, Intro to Photo, Math. This is a great way to organize files. Here's the catch though. If I'm in a class and I have a big project that's going to involve a lot of video or audio or images, I want to create a separate folder for that project and probably not put it in the folder for that class. Here's an example. I'm in history class and I'm asked to create a 15-minute documentary. So instead of putting that in my history folder, I'm going to make a new folder, and I'm going to call it documentary project. And then I'm going to put all my stuff for that project in there. And the reason I do that is to make it easy for me to move things off of the computer when I'm done with the project. Because your Whitfield computers aren't meant to store everything that you do over the course of your Whitfield career. Here's another example. You can see I'm taking Intro to Photo. I'm probably going to take a lot of pictures in that class. So I may have hundreds or thousands of images in there. That stuff adds up quickly and can fill up the storage on your computer. So instead of storing everything in my Intro to Photo folder, I'm going to do something similar to what I did with the documentary project folder. I'm going to create a new folder for whatever it is I'm working on at the time. And then when I'm done with that, I can offload it to Google Drive, which we'll talk about in a minute. Eventually, we're going to ask you to actually stop using your Documents folder and only put stuff in Google Drive, but we'll do that in the next video. Okay, so quick overview of Google Drive. Last thing in this video. Most of you are probably familiar with how you get to Google Drive. It's pretty easy. You can just type in drive.google.com, or if you're in your email, you can look for this apps icon, and when you click on it, it gives you access to all the Google apps that we use at Whitfield School. So you can just click on Drive and it'll take you to this screen. Now this is my Google Drive. Let's take a look at what we have in here. I've got a bunch of folders, and then if I scroll down, I've got a ton of just loose files. That's actually not a great way to do things. I should probably clean that up a little bit, but we'll talk about that in the next video. Just like we talked about organizing your folders and files on your computer, you want to organize your files and folders on Google Drive before you kind of link the two. You could put a lot of time and effort into organizing all this stuff, but if you've been at Whitfield for a while, you've got a ton of folders, ton of files in Google Drive, and right now all you want to do is get things organized. So I'm going to show you a cheat to get you started, and you can go back and organize this stuff later. What I did was I created a new folder by clicking on the New button. Folder, I named it Archive. There it is. And then I put everything inside of that archive folder. And I put everything in here because some of this stuff is from years ago. If you've been a Whitfield student and you're a senior, you got a lot of stuff from years past that you don't need right now. So I highlighted it all, dragged it into that archive folder. I'm not going to do it right now, but that's how you do it. And then I do everything below it. I click on the one at the top that I want. I hold down the Shift button, scroll to the bottom, click on the last one. It highlights everything for me. And then I drag that stuff into the archive folder. Then you'll just have one folder, that archive folder, and you'll be in really good shape to move on to the video where we talk about using Google Drive as your digital backpack.